idea that the harder you work, the more you earn, the more valuable you are. And so if you are somebody who works all the time, it shows in how much you have. When really that's not, we know that lots of people work all the time and don't have anything. And again, very few people don't work a lot and they have a ton of stuff. So education creates wealth disparity. Higher education, maybe not only by itself, but as you come up, there are things. Pierre Bourdieu discusses social capital and cultural capital that are basically things that are unseen, parts of unseen structures. Time is something that helps create wealth, if you can imagine that. If parents have time to read to their kids and take them to the museums and take them to libraries and do all these extra sorts of instructional things with them, then that builds the groundwork for the public school to come in and educate in particular ways. But of course, if you don't have time, then it looks like, this is poverty, and this is what happens when you don't have those time structures in place to help children. They don't read as early, they don't have the same sort of cognitive development. C. Wright Mills wrote in the 1950s about the power elite and people who come from the same backgrounds, who make the rules that sort of go and build into the power structure. Politics creates wealth inequality in terms of all the policies that they pass that sort of privilege wealthy people, tax cuts, tax breaks, heavier taxes, and the welfare part of our state governance, while it's designed to sort of take people out of poverty or coerce people into working, there are things in place that sort of keep those income disparities very, very active. So public education, higher education, the economy, obviously. I mean, I think that's an obvious answer, but they're all kind of connected.
Those behaviors themselves, in part, determined by economic status. And so our ability to avoid smoking and eat a healthy diet depends, in turn, on our access to income, education, and what we call the social determinants of health.
Physical environment does impact. So what I wrote, in densely populated urban areas, there is often a lack of facilities and outdoor areas. Like, if you are living in Detroit, in places where it's not safe, you just stay inside. And that's something that will be adding, because in a way you don't have outdoor activities and just like accumulating and eating, and usually eating the junk food because it's cheaper. So basically you just get like wherever you go there are vending machines, wherever you go there are fast food, so basically it's more accessible to you. Let's take CMU, having the SAC facility allowing all students to do physical activity. Even if it's rainy, snowy, they have the best facilities where they can go and practice and exercise. If, let's say, for example, you are living in a, so it doesn't cost you money to do physical activity because it's part of your tuition. Whereas if you are living in a place where you have to drive an hour to go to the gym, you won't be able to drive. You just stay and do your work.
Hunger-obesity paradox that we've been talking about in several major metropolitan areas where people can be obese but yet still feel hungry. And this is because of food insecurity. So if you look at a lot of urban areas, they have issues trying to get nutritious foods, or in these urban areas it's very associated with a lot of dense calorie type of foods which are bad for you, so they don't have grocery stores there, so you get your nutrition from convenience stores. So you'll be getting your donuts, you'll be getting your bags of chips, you'll be getting your pop, and you don't have access to fruits, vegetables, and the typical nutritious things. So yes, if you're obese, you'd be less likely to receive again those benefits, get that preferential treatment that someone who's not obese.
Weight-based stereotype. What does it mean, weight-based stereotype? That I'm labeling people based on their weight, and basically the assumption assuming that obese people are obese because they are unintelligent. They are lazy.
Can you describe the poverty stigma?
Well, is there one?
So basically, how people view those who are in poverty.
I think historically what we've got, and I talk to students all the time about what the United States of American culture has contributed to the world at large, society. Fast food, which is really gross. It's very delicious, but very gross. Entertainment distractions, internet, computer games, consoles. And even though those are Japanese, it's like the demand is like here. And identity. So identity is actually the component of that stigma, I think, that's important to explore. So the stigma is, I imagine, related to the identity of work and the worker and hard work and productivity. People get really offended if they see somebody with food stamps who has on a nice pair of shoes. And then there's this, well, I can't afford nice shoes, and so if I can't afford nice shoes and I'm not on food stamps, then they shouldn't be able to have food stamps if they have nice shoes. If they have enough money to buy these shoes, they shouldn't be getting government assistance. This is this heavy sort of consumptive identity that's developed. I would say it probably started in after World War I. And so I think that the poverty stigma that we experience, if we're going to talk about it as the poverty stigma, is related to identity through consumption. So how we show who we are through our stuff, related to work and productivity, and then the way in which we work and get stuff so that we can show people who we are. Poor people, in other words, are, if you remove the ability for somebody in poverty to express themselves through consumptive means like new shoes or nice shoes, then basically it's effectively saying that poor folks do not have identities except for poverty identities.
Autonomy, control, empowerment turns out to be a crucial influence on health and disease. People who are disempowered, people who don't have autonomy, people who have little control over their lives, are at increased risk of heart disease, increased risk of mental illness, in the Whitehall studies, increased risk of absence from work, and increased risk of decrements in functioning.
If you're high up on rank, then you get quality jobs and what have you, and people that don't have good jobs, they suffer.
These people are loose, they can't find jobs, and they can't afford to buy the food, so they're just skimping and scraping, and meds. They can't afford to get their prescriptions that they've got to have. And it's really getting rough, and it's going to get worse.
There's this loss of jobs in West Central Michigan that goes far beyond Electrolux. And it seems to me like there's a growing chasm between the haves and the have-nots.
And where you stand on the economic ladder is a good predictor of health.
The higher the grade, the better the health. The lower the grade, the higher the mortality rate, and the shorter the life expectancy.
Infant mortality rate, isn't it just something outrageous for us? Like we're like one of the highest in industrialized nations. That's a statement. That's a statement about a lot of things that are wrong here.
We spend $2 trillion per year on medical care. That's nearly half of all the health dollars spent in the world. But we've seen our statistics. We live shorter, often sicker lives than in any other industrialized country. We rank 30th in life expectancy.
And it's U.S. life expectancy by county for men. It's very easy to look at the southern states and I know that the other day I talked about a man in McLean, Virginia, who might live to be in his mid-80s, but 350 miles in West Virginia, in McDowell, West Virginia, a man has the life expectancy of Gambia, one of Africa's poorest countries.
Could you tell me how this process works, how you found out about it, and how long you've been coming, and what kind of the method is?
Oh, I've been here since.
How are you?
Pretty good. 2006.
Yeah.
And I heard you.
So did I. We both moved here at the same time. She's my neighbor. I came here today. We fight together and help each other, and she's my neighbor too now. And we sort of stick together and help each other. That way it saves a lot of gas and helping one another too. And if what we don't use, I take and give to someone else that needs it.
They make sure there's a basic, mostly basic food groups. The food groups that are available. I mean, they have fruit and meat, bread, and sweets if you sweet free.
And like you got your cereals that you really need for breakfast and stuff like that. Kids don't know what poverty is. Like we grew up to be in. It's sometimes you was lucky to even have a slice of bread on the table, alone anything else. And like I said, I went to bed without food just so my daughter would have at least something to eat. And these kids sometimes nowadays, even your age, don't know what it is to go to bed hungry.
I don't like the food at Fresh. It kind of sucks. The portions are really small, and there's a fight to get more than one quesadilla.
And I'm glad they do this food pantry because otherwise than that, I don't know where I would be. I'd probably be on the street.
Proper nutrition, proper exercise goes a long way in helping us. From the education perspective, if they realize that over the years, physical education classes have been cut. They're leaving it up to the parents to responsibility for this.
It's hard because I'm just going to be honest, it's easier to buy your son a 99-cent cheeseburger to fill him up than it is to go to the supermarket and make a meal that's going to cost $40. So, I mean, because of my income, it's just easier to do that, but now I see it's affecting my children's lifestyles. You want to make changes, but I feel like right now maybe it's gotten so far into it that how do I make a change? I don't know where to turn to. Is there someone who can help me to make this change?
Burden on parents who already have a lot of things on their plate, then maybe they'd want to invest more in physical education in schools because it might do such a good thing in terms of long-term investment again.
I will credit Michelle Obama, the First Lady, because she started the campaign, Get Healthier and Let's Move campaign. If you go over Let's Move campaign, it's a comprehensive initiative targeting childhood obesity, and basically that's why, because like children, if they are obese, they will live shorter than their parents. So this is the first generation where you think that they should be healthy than their parents. They are more having diabetes, metabolic syndrome, having high blood glucose, having high blood cholesterol than their parents. So they will die before their parents, which is not good.
In terms of what say community leaders need to do in terms of getting healthier food to specific places, right? If you know that there's areas, because the socioeconomic status is low, that they don't have accessibility to certain things, and it's all that's required to sort of stimulate, say, better health in the area is better planning, then, these demographics do make a difference, right? If they understand that, kids can't work out kids can't participate in after-school activities because there's no ballparks or fields in the area or safe playgrounds, then maybe they can do something about that. Maybe they can try to put some revenue into that or try to help build that up.
We have to invest in quality of life. People want to live in a city that's healthy, that's clean, that's walkable and bikeable, that's full of places they can exercise and enjoy fresh air. Having plenty of park space and greenways is also directly related to our city's health. And this is an area where we need to do better. We know that to be healthier, we need to eat better and we need to exercise more. And then how you make that part of a city is really the challenge. Helping to create an environment where people are in a position to walk more, to run more, and to bike more. You're accomplishing the goal of getting people more active, but you're also accomplishing the goal of making the city a more desirable place to work, to visit.
The things we have to do to change obesity are too important to do them only because of obesity. So we better find other societal reasons to make these changes, because we're talking about revamping the whole way we live.
As long as there are children, there's hope. As long as people continue to have babies, there will always be hope for something different. But we can't do it by ourselves.
To realize that if we put in the effort early, then it would help maybe in the long run, because healthy kids do make healthy adults.
We've made the decision that anti-smoking was a high priority. We made the decision that fighting AIDS was a high priority. We make the decision that an adequate national defense is a high priority. So the question is this issue a high priority for the country.